I hope you're excited and not too nervous. Would you believe it's not much more than making function calls? Before you became a developer, you probably didn't think twice about this, but every time you do something on the web, to the server, you're really just making a function call. So let's break this down. We've been writing functions for the past several days. What if I asked you to write a function that returned a string that looked like HTML? What might you put? Maybe you thought of something like this. We're going to do an h1 tag. It says, hello, Flask. Right? To Python, this is just a string, but to us, we recognize that that looks kind of like HTML. If we wrote this file, we would call it by simply naming the function and invoking it, like so. But we can't really expect our clients to understand how to call a function. And another thing is, we know that this works if we just run the file, but as soon as it's over, the function's over. So enter the request response cycle. We need something that can, one, allow this function to be available whenever we call on it, so to keep it open. And also, we need a way for clients to be able to make those function calls. So in coding terms, in the request response cycle, we have clients, and we have the server, and this is what we'll be writing, the server. But the way it works is that a client makes a request, and the server will return a response. And typically this is going to be some combination of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So what does that mean in terms of function calls? That means a request is really simply the client making a function call. So kind of like what we were doing when we were writing functions before. And the response is simply whatever was returned from the function. In this case, this line. So let's dig in a little bit deeper. How do we make requests? Again, how do we make those function calls happen? Well, let's talk about a couple of examples. Users can type a URL in the address bar. They can click a link. They can refresh a page. They can submit a form. Maybe you can think of some others, but these are some main ways that we interact with the web. Under the hood, the thing that's happening here is called routing. So to understand that, let's think, for example, of a site that we might go to. So maybe we go to facebook.com. We would expect going to facebook.com to be different than going to, say, my profile page, where on this page we might expect to see the newsfeed, and on this page we'd expect to see a profile. So this is the part that tells to tell us which server we even want to use. And then the second part, this is the routing. And this is what we're going to be focusing on as we move into Flask. We'll start to see how we connect a function, a specific function, to a specific route. And just as a little preview, we'll see this in Flask. It'll look something like this. We'll have something called a decorator, where we're able to say, for example, that this route should run this function. That will return some kind of HTML. So as a little preview, that's what we're getting into now. So in the next video, we'll start actually coding this and seeing what it looks like in Flask.